order the meeting of the Park Ridge Park District Board of Park Commissioners. It is Thursday, March 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the boardroom at Prospect Park, Woolers Hall, 733 North Prospect Avenue, Park Ridge. It is approximately 7 p.m. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mary Ann, if you could please call the roll.
Commissioner Bundy? Commissioner Bowe?
Here.
Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Commissioner Grau?
Here.
Commissioner Hulting?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Here.
Commissioner LeDuc?
Here. Great. Does anyone have anything to amend, add, or delete to the current agenda? All right, seeing none, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Also seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes. I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes of Thursday, February 16th, 2023, and Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have some discussion. I just have a typo. I just want to let you guys know it's not any big deal, but Cindy, Commissioner Grau let me know that in February 16th, 2023 minutes under the pickleball discussion, there was a, it's supposed to be Northeast Park, and as a typo, it says Northwest. So I went ahead and changed that, and it's already going to be, when the secretary signs the minutes, it's already been taken care of.
Okay,
That's
great.
it.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Oh, wait, yeah, that's right. I was like, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Moving on, I have no president's report. So I'll pass it to Attorney Price.
It makes a huge difference. I want you to know. I tried to listen to the last meeting on this, and it's hard when there's no mic.
Oh, it is on? Okay. So for my report, there's House Bill 3852 concerning lifeguards. It's a bill that would mandate the minimum hourly rate is in excess of $22 an hour for lifeguards. That's an extraordinary pay increase. One of the park districts in the Ansel-Gling system, that's a $180,000 difference for them to operate. It's the general conceit is that people weren't able to get lifeguards last year. And that's why, and it's proposed out of Chicago by them. They had their own lifeguard scandal. They closed their beaches August 1. They didn't open a third of their pools for reasons having not to do with the rate of pay for lifeguards. But this is their proposed solution. IAPD is doing what they can do, and they're encouraging every park district, and I'm encouraging you to reach out to your legislators to say HB 3852 is a bad idea. We can get people to work as lifeguards and not bankrupt the budget for the aquatics facilities. I mean, the alternatives are you move a bunch of general fund money over there, or you raise the fees on your users, and neither of those is a good thing. When we're able to find the talent we need to protect people at rates that are a little more competitive than $22 plus an hour. So that's my attorney's report, is to bring your attention to that and to encourage you to talk to your legislator.
I'll wait till my report. You want me to just go?
Yeah, just
Great.
go for it.
Thank you, Dirk. I was going to also mention on top of that, that we're going to be calculating the cost for our district. And then I can get that to all of you, but I'll be reaching out to, our representatives and communicating that as well once we get that cost. So the big one. In terms of my report, a lot going on at the district, a lot of interviewing. So there's some full-time positions we're getting close to having some decisions on and some offers going out. We're doing the HR team, rec team, marketing team. Everybody's working on recruiting for seasonal staff already, if you can believe it or not. So you see the signs everywhere that they've been doing a great job. Added a couple additional job fairs to those that were out there before. And I know I'm going into HR, but I'll just talk about some of the things because there's a lot going on in HR as I've started to talk about. But as you see, Jennifer Myers joined the team over at hockey. So she's starting and really been going gung-ho since she started at her full-time safety position. We had a long, productive meeting with the Paderma rep this week with several of us, and it was the annual management kickoff. So what they do is they review and they look at, they go through our accident reports, and we had a meeting with them, the administrative team first, and then we bring in the managers and the safety committee and supervisors. But they look at our trends and, where we have the most risks, and then that's where we target the trainings and the programs for the coming year. So it's a back and forth great discussion. So we've got a plan in place, but Jenny is doing a great job so far. She's got a full plate.
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
That? Do we get any kind of break because we're putting this emphasis on safety?
Paderma has a program that they give you. As a matter of fact, they changed it, and that's one of the things he explained. But you get incentives for going through this and meeting the goals, right? So this is the first one, is the review and then the meeting with him, and then we have to come up with a one goal, basically, the biggest goal, and then we have to meet that, and then we have to, so then we have to come up with it and then meet the goal and then show what under it we accomplished. So yes, we do. If they broke it down, like you get 500, they used to give it all at once at the end, and when they did a different kind of review, but now it's 500, 500, and 500. So, I mean, it's something, but it's an incentive. So. Sure. So that was that. I mentioned the job fairs, and then the compensation study is, we're very close to completing that. Very good results on that study. So we will also be working on rolling that out. And what else do I have? Oh, all of the staff was, performance evaluations on all the staff were done. So it's a lot going on at this time of the year, preparing really for a lot of, the busy seasons coming up as well. In marketing and public relations, I'll just go on to that. Oh, yeah, sure.
Is there, do we not do job fairs at Maine South?
I believe, yes, we do. I believe that one already happened.
Okay, I must have missed that.
Or maybe it's not coming up this. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Like I didn't recognize that voice. No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, it isn't on here. It says the West one.
Right.
On the 22nd. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, she works very closely with the staff at Maine South. So either it's targeted interviews or a specific job fair they'll be at. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else for that? So I just wanted to mention under the marketing public relations. Clearly, Margaret is here if there's any questions on her report, but the trivia fundraiser event, I wanted to thank her and actually the whole, the foundation and several of the staff that were there. And great event, 70 people, and raised $3,500. So that was.
And the second place team.
Oh, wow. Where's the first place? No, I'm just kidding.
And the group decided we're doing another one on November 4th.
Oh,
so
here we go.
save the
That's right.
date.
Forgot that
It's coming
exciting
up.
news.
Just no
We
more-
want to try to move back to November, so we figured this year we'll do two and move us back to November.
Just no more starting with the bird calls. That was demoralizing.
We're gonna make the
heard there were some
questions
tough
all easier too.
You gotta build to the hard things. When you start with that, when that's the first question, we were all like, "Oh my god, I have no idea."
I know she was asking me some of the questions after. I'm like, I wouldn't have gotten that stuff. It's a loon.
There were no loons.
So anyway, I just kind of rolled yeah.
And I have a marketing question.
Mhm.
I was reading through our finance report and seeing, that we're doing the solar stuff with our supplier, and then it reminded of the solar panels. And do we have a table at Earth Day that we can tout like all the green stuff we're doing? And I don't want Margaret to have to sit at it, but
Thanks. We have done it
Talked about that, yeah.
before in the past, but it's probably pre-COVID. I could work with the sustainability committee and see what we can do. It falls under Terry now.
We have talked about that
a
in the
lot of
past.
people
and this-
don't know a
yeah.
lot of things we're doing. So I just think we should have it out there because people, we deserve credit for it,
Right.
and people are inspired by it to make change.
Yes, we'll see what we can do. At least to have information out if we can. I know. It's
Yeah,
always a
that's what
challenge
I
with
was thinking. You
staff.
could have a
Oh, I can
poster or
help.
something like that.
I know because there's so many.
Yeah,
other
there's
websites
been
that
years we
work
just didn't have the staff to staff it, and we did a couple posters like our
Yeah, I think-
recycling opportunities, our lawn care practices, what we've done in the past year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
That's
at
what we-
minimum, we could do that again and do one on the solar.
And then next year we'll have the sustainability coordinator, and that
Right.
That'll be their job.
that'll be a fun day. But that's a great idea.
Okay, great. Anything else?
I just want to say that the preschool takeover posts are just a massive amount of adorableness, and I love
Yes,
them.
they're so cute. All right. Anything else? And then I can jump back to the distinguished agency discussion, distinguished accreditation, unless anybody has any questions. General questions? No. Great. Okay. So this program is something that we've been on our goals and trying to get done. And we finally said we've just got to jump in and do it. So I thought I'd just explain it briefly, what the distinguished accreditation process is. To our knowledge, this district has not gone through this. I personally have gone through it at 2 other districts. It's quite the process. It's basically a review of all of your practices, policies, and one of the reasons we have waited is because we're working on our policies throughout the year. So I feel like we're at a good place, but the first thing that we do is a self-evaluation, determine if we can comply with the sufficient number of the criteria necessary for the accreditation. So the staff is meeting in March, and if we feel that we are ready for this, then we have to apply to this committee. It's the IPR Chair of Distinguished Park and Recreation Accreditation Committee by March 31st, 2023. It requires a formal letter signed by myself and the president, an application, copy of our self-evaluation, and a $600 fee. From there, this committee determines if they think we're eligible, and then we have 19 months to complete it. So you can tell it's a big process. So the actual evaluation must take place by November of 2024, November 15th. So during that time, we'll be collecting documents, and a lot of times what happens in the past, if we don't have a certain policy or our policies aren't up to date, then we have to bring them to the board for approval. So you might be seeing a lot of policies. So whoever's on policy next, we'll have some fun. So I should have probably not say that until that person's appointed, right? Bad move. But I should also, Matt Coyne is very Commissioner Coyne's very happy right now. But I should point out that, well, I shouldn't, at least our manuals have been recently done, right? But I am sure there's things that we will be coming to the board with. So anyway, but there's another deadline that comes up in August of 2024. We have to sign a letter and the board president requesting our evaluation. And then evaluation team comes out, and it's made up of 5 like professionals and commissioners, and they just go through. I mean, it used to be boxes, but now it's electronic. I mean, files and files and files. You just pull the file and they review it, ask you questions. So anyway, that's kind of the process. And then if you're approved, it's January 2025 conference that you're recognized at that conference. So the fees, pretty much it's $600. Any out of pocket expenses for this committee, like a lunch. They said very rarely does somebody stay overnight because it's all Illinois people. And then there is now software, which I would recommend, and we would put this all in the budget. It's $850. So it's a minimal cost. It's just time for staff. So why I'm bringing that up is because I would have to turn in a letter once the staff has this meeting. And I'll be obviously talking to President Leduc about that letter, but I just want consensus from the board that you think it's a good idea and, you don't have any problem with us doing this. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So is it just review of things that are on paper, or do they look at how things happen in real life? Like,
they look at policy and they
do
look
they
at the parks and
interview
facilities.
people? Like, the comparison for me is like a lab audit where you go in and like you see if people are doing the stuff like they would do.
The whole
like-
team,
like what
Margaret's
they're
been
doing
through it
matches
before.
the
I think
procedure,
April's,
but-
have you been through this? No.
Like-
I think they come in and the team is here. So yes, they'll be asking questions of
Okay.
the administrative.
And they do a tour too.
And a tour,
They
yes.
do a tour of our facilities. They can ask staff questions
Yeah.
when they're there,
Right.
but it's not the focus.
Okay,
of
because
the tour,
sometimes
though.
you can have policies and then what happens? in
Oh,
real
right.
life
Those-
doesn't match the policies.
These are park district people, so they're very interested anyways
Okay.
in how you do things. They love hearing about, something will trigger them and they'll ask questions about
Yeah.
a program or, so.
And does this
thorough
what
review.
benefit, like what cachet does this bring?
It brings
like-
basically
how
that
does
you're
it help
meeting,
us?
that it's a check. It's a check and balance. That you're meeting, that your policies are in order, that there's nothing you're missing in terms of, just different ways of doing programming, et cetera. That what they're looking at. There's a whole list.
Does it ever, for districts who've gone through it, does it ever result in improvements? Like as you're reviewing the policies and updating
I would
them,
say
you find
yes.
things you
From
wanna-
from personally going
guess
through
it-
it. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, it
Results more often in training of staff
Yeah.
too on things. So it's
Okay.
kind of changed a little bit over the course of COVID. The national NERPA also does a national certification.
hmm
In both cases, it's about you're meeting you're serving at a level that's among the highest of your peers, because the peers are the ones that are reviewing. They used to do things when they were on site, like say standard. Will you hand me a copy of the financial policies, please? And staff needed to know where they could find whatever
Yeah.
it was. Can you give me the capital plan? Can you give me the capital long-term plan? And if staff sat there like they weren't ready, prepared, they weren't referring to these
Right.
policies that are important, they didn't know where they were, that led to some training of staff. They don't do that since COVID. Now, a lot of it is submitted electronically for review, the policies are in place and meet the level of sophistication expected. And then they do make the site visit where they want to talk to staff to know that they know how to access these resources and where they're found when it comes time for them to do their work.
You're not just coming up with these policies out of thin air. That it's been approved and.
Right. So the DA and NRPA accreditations, they're looking for things like some park districts always approve their 6-month review of closed session minutes in closed session. Well, how do we know that you're doing it every 6 months? So one of the benefits is that occasionally you come out and approve the release of minutes in open session. So now we've got open minutes that are available to show. We're doing our every 6-month thing. So that's a process change that all the lawyers who represent park districts and the DA accreditation people, we've gone round and round about that.
That specific issue, yeah, the closed session.
That kind of
It's bound to lead to some improvements. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just
love to think we're
mean,
perfect, but I know
in
that there's
principle, yeah, I think I'm cool with it. I just wanted to know a little bit more about what it does and how it benefits us. Thanks.
Um,
right. A mentor, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yes, very true.
I'm all in favor of accreditation. It's, it generally, if it's well done, it leads towards really great improvements.
Mhm.
I think it puts in place certain policies that are really helpful for just making things even better
Mhm.
for the park district.
Agree. Yeah, it sharpens.
Yeah, it just makes and it bringing in other people and bringing in other ideas and that sort of thing. In some cases, I often wonder, is the cost outweigh the time?
I agree.
Um,
This is-
the going through and investing all that time in a process like that can really, be a burden on the staff and, to do that sort of thing. But nonetheless, I'm still in favor of it. Do you see that anywhere down the road there might be, funding that's tied towards whether you're accredited that would keep us from being able to get any kind of funding, or is that not yet on the radar?
It's not the funding that we get through, OSLAD and Illinois Department of Natural Resources. It's not at the time, but it could be. Yeah, it could be looked at favorably when you're getting awards at conferences, things like that. It's not. I don't think it's a check mark on the applications, but for sure not grants that I'm aware of. Unless anybody else. Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Can you tell us some of our peer districts who are accredited right now?
That's all right.
Oh,
We talked about that
okay.
today. I know, I know Skokie is, Glenview, I'm pretty sure are, but Northbrook, there's several. I mean, there's
I just
definitely
wanted to know
several.
who. And,
Yeah.
well, I just think it's something to brag about, whether it's in the paper or, on our brochure, when we get it accredited. I think it'll be great.
Yeah, people put the logo on their, on their
Yeah.
emails and on the
Yeah,
Um,
that's good.
letterhead.
What's the cycle for this? Like, do people do it like every X years?
Yes,
or-
there's a review every 5. I was going to say 3
Okay.
to 5, but 5 years.
Okay.
So they come back, but it's nothing like the initial one. I've been through the review and the initial in the old way, yeah, with the boxes. So I haven't done it since then. So I'm looking forward to the electronic. Yeah, the room of boxes. It was crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so exactly. Yeah, you had to be very organized.
I just want to say that since I've been on the board, I think we've gone through every policy, and I think we should get
Mhm.
credit for all that work. Some of them were grueling in the early days.
I know. I just fear that some of them were a while ago now, right? I mean, we've been trying to keep up, and that was the goal, right? To keep up with the current ones, right? Yeah.
Ever since you started coming.
Yeah, we've gone through a manual
You started
every,
it, yeah, yeah.
every,
Became RED.
right.
Yeah.
The software you talk about,
Uh-huh.
what is the software? Is it
I
like
have no idea. I really don't. Do you know, Margaret? I mean, oh, you mean the actual name of it?
no?
Oh.
Just like what
Was it due? I think
it becomes like the process procedure manual, like master.
I think so. I mean,
It
we haven't gotten that
already
far.
has all the standards built into it, and you're just dropping the files into those standards. I went through it as an electronic process. I think I was the first district to, but we did one really, really, really big PDF that I just bookmarked.
So you didn't have the software, right? We talked about.
We
yeah.
did. They didn't have the
They didn't have it
software
then.
then. So now they have the software and they already pre-populated with all the standards and what kind of documents you need. And then you're just dropping the documents into there. So it's a document management system.
It's called Power DMS Document Management, if you've ever heard of it.
So I'll research it over.
Okay, thank you. I can give it.
So super quick Google search says Arlington Heights Park District, Oak Brook, St. Charles, Elmhurst, Downers Grove, Hoffman Estates. So, and it just goes down
Yeah,
the list.
it goes
of
on.
people.
Yeah, it's a lot
So-
of
so
districts.
My take on it is we don't want to be the one that doesn't have
Right, exactly.
that at this point. Right, exactly.
Well, since you'll have a lot of time on your hands, maybe you can volunteer to help with the boxes. Yeah,
He's not going to be a commissioner. That's why we're teasing him.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea for a lot of the aforementioned reasons. If the staff feels like this is something that they can carve into their schedule, given that, like when I was looking at page 42, like we have a lot of ongoing
We
big
do.
projects right now, and we're also obviously having some turnover in some pretty big positions. So, but if
What
the
they don't know is part of their job, there's just, this is part of what we do, right? No. Sorry, I interrupted you.
But if the staff feels like they can handle it, then we
Oh,
have
one
an
of them's
awesome
here.
staff. So go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I mean, there's no way. That's why it keeps getting pushed. Because, I mean, first it was that the manuals weren't, in any kind of shape that I knew we wouldn't be able to, get past the self-evaluation. But then it was, the referendum. Then it was, it's always going to be something. That's what we've come to the conclusion of. So I think we'll be able to, we'll see. We're going to do the self-evaluation, and that'll be a good exercise. So I'll come back and report on if we put it, in for it, and if we felt like we're just not ready, then we'll wait. But we're going to try to do it. Thank you. That's all I have.
And on to finance, super.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We already did, Margaret. Yeah.
Superintendent DeAngelis.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowe. My written report begins on page 15 of your board packet. There was a lot going on this month, so I'm happy to answer any questions. I could highlight that we closed the bonds, invested the funds, did the electricity bid. Lauterbach and Amon completed their field work. We are still awaiting feedback from them. I believe they said they were planning to go to review this week, but I feel like the numbers shouldn't be changing much. So we're pleased at our planned amount to transfer to capital of almost 1.1 million.
I have a question about that.
Mhm.
It's great news. We're way off what we predicted. And you could make different decisions based on, what we're predicting. So I'm wondering if you could, help us understand that and help us know how to better predict in the future. I'm all for conservative, budgeting, but we might have made some different decisions if we knew how different that balance was going to be.
That's a good question, and it's kind of hard to answer. I haven't gone through in detail the reporting part of our financials yet, when we work through the management discussion and analysis to kind of see, well, where were we higher and lower? I know one big factor in the general fund was the personal property replacement taxes that were significantly higher than what we had budgeted. So we didn't have expenses to go along with that. But we took care of that in 23, I believe. So
We lowered the percentage we were asking for, or how does it? Oh, no, we don't get we just get that amount. We don't even ask
right,
for it.
it's
We don't even.
it's a distribution from the state based on corporate
Right.
taxes.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we always talk about the programming, how we budget to make sure we can have maximum participation. So sometimes we don't have as much expenses or revenues there. But, and then in the buildings and grounds area, how difficult it is because we need to have funds for when things need fixing, and how to kind of balance how much we need to budget there. And I think that we had some turnover last year that reduced our staffing costs.
With staffing, it's been quite a while, but you might not remember in some of the presentations we had, for an example, the Oakton Ice Arena, when we had the retirement and we had a full vacancy for 6 months. So that plus the insurance costs, we're like, don't get used to this in Oakton, because that was a huge factor, that we had a really high net revenue and we did have some staff vacancies. And also with the insurance, we always budget for higher insurance. So those were some big ticket items that I just recall. And also, I will say, it was an extremely difficult year for programming coming out of the pandemic to try and figure out what we thought was going to happen, So that was, we did much better than we were trying to, we think this will be like this, but we don't want to go too high because it was just such an unknown. It's always.
Right, the fitness center is a good example, right? They
Right.
did better, quite a bit better than budgeted.
They did. Yes.
But who's to say, right?
We had no idea
Where
what.
Right.
centers were coming out of the pandemic, right?
Right. Yeah, but I go back to, one of my things is that the child care at the fitness center, it was $12,000 or something. I'm like, well, maybe we could have afforded that $12,000. You know what I'm saying? So
It's more like 30.
well, it was somewhere in here that I read it. So anyway, I appreciate that. I was shocked. So I mean.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say, let me elaborate on that a little bit, because I imagine that will be another factor this year, because when we're budgeting for vacant positions or new positions, I have to assume that they're going to require family coverage, because if we don't budget for that, and they do, then we've got a problem. And it's a big difference between single and family coverage. Right, right. And even, existing staff, like as we project, I try to take, account for what's currently, elected, but there are a number of staff that waive coverage. Well, you can't necessarily count on that they'll continue to waive coverage, right? People have, events, family events that change their elections. So I try to put a factor in. So not everybody's going to change, but what if half of them do? So, so we go through this exercise every year, and it's, good to have the money there in case everyone's electing family coverage. And we weren't sure with the change the changes we made last year. So I think,
You expected more people to take the family coverage than did.
well, we made that change for this year. And I think I did a quick look, and I think we should be, that everything's going to work out okay. But it could have increased the number of family coverage, yeah. Mhm.
Right. Yeah. But even, even when you consider that we've been bumping up our wages every year, it's, I mean, that's the reverse. Like you would think it would be cutting in more. I, okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's a good discussion. I mean, I just was shocked. So good weather.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Like most of our programs, there's an expense, not that one.
Right. Well, and I think, we always hope that we can do better than what we budgeted for. And we always, as we go through the capital asset replacement plan and capital projections every year, we're always finding new things that, well, we hadn't accounted for that asset and it needs replacement. And Terry spent the money already. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, it's just so out of whack. That's all.
And it's a right.
Well, yeah.
And
Yeah,
it-
but yes.
And it's
I don't-
right, and it's a balancing act because as we just mentioned, that surplus does get reinvested in our capital assets, and it's difficult to plan with its uncertain revenue because there have been years when we've had increased staffing and increased staffing costs, and our margin got, our surplus got a lot slimmer. So,
But there's always a surplus. Good job.
Hmm.
So Karen, keep it up.
No pressure. No pressure.
no pressure. Yeah.
Too late. She took the job.
Well,
Yeah, well, and I struggle with that too, right? Because this is the PPRT that Dirk just references, the personal property replacement tax, right? The corporate tax that gets distributed. Well, and when is the recession coming? We're going to have a recession. When is the recession coming? Do I budget the same as last year? Can I count on this again? Maybe take a little haircut. It's all kind of it's uncertainty, and you try to do the best to balance what's reasonable.
Sandra, this might be a dumb question, but given that there is the potential for a significant bump up in the cost of lifeguard wages, would we be able to keep some of that back and not transfer it to the capital fund as a potential offset?
I guess depending on the timing and if that was the board's direction, because it's kind of contrary to our fund balance policy. But we have done that, before, like we didn't transfer according to our fund balance policy when the pandemic hit. And last year when we, for staff, yeah, because we increased our budgeted merit increases. We did that last year. So it's something that
We
could
also have the
be considered?
ability, the flexibility to, in the funds to go for the budget appropriation ordinance up 20%. So
10%. Yeah.
Yeah.
10%, yeah.
Cover the lifeguards.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because the lifeguards, our
Depends on-
because our salary is
Yeah,
so
right.
big.
It's not
yeah.
good. I mean, we're gonna. I. That's gonna be a rough one if that happens. But I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, like, having grown up out downstate where
just a
the
bill,
cost of
right?
living
I
is
mean,
cheaper, I can't imagine that the downstate park districts won't, like, flip out about this. Because it would be, I feel like,
Depends
even,
on their pool situation too. I mean,
Right, like
we have a lot of aquatics.
If you need
We're
to
heavy.
pay $22, then you pay $22, right?
Right.
We don't need to pay $22.
Well, if it's a state law, I mean, if it's a law,
No, but what I'm saying is, why should it be the law? If somebody needs it, then do it.
I don't think it should. Right.
It's-
Right.
Right, right.
And then that affects us. So these are all these mandates, right? These unfunded mandates, and that's why we have attorneys, and that's why we have people down in Springfield watching these things, right?
so I guess my point was just if we thought that there was a good chance of that succeeding, would it make sense to hold some of, since we have an unusually large,
Let's
transfer
get
that
the
we can
number
make.
first. I think we'll get the number and see if we're comfortable with the 10% that we have the ability within our budget to spend.
Well,
just something to think about just in case.
Dirk, do you know if it's will it pass for this year or would it be for 24? Yeah.
But subject to further discussion with IAPD and Charlotte Park District, and then I had to go back to committee. So while it passed out, but that's a dangerous thing that passed out of committee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the effective date
Yeah. Does it have in there?
Probably
this year.
after Memorial Day, yeah.
Oh, that fast. Well, you have to pass the Senate though, right? They haven't done that, have they?
Yeah, but if this is gonna pass, it's gonna, I'm with you, I would think that everybody who's not the city of Chicago would say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But, weirder things happen down there.
A lot of weird.
So, yeah, and timing would be, we'd have to determine, do we want to wait, right? If we're like ready to kind of close out the audit and we're trying to figure out if we want to wait to know if this is going to pass or not,
Mhm.
we might have to kind of think about that. But it's possible, I would say, yeah.
We'll keep you posted on what we think.
Any other questions? All right.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I move to approve the payment vouchers in the total amount of $465,308.86.
Second.
Any more discussion? Can I have a roll call vote?
Thanks. Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
And that passes, and I'll pass it over to Commissioner Coyne.
Thank you, and I will turn the floor over to Superintendent Armour.
Thank you.
Mhm.
The recreation report begins on page 33. Lots of fun things happening. The Candyland Trail, Princess Ball, and many Valentine events for all ages were held during the month of February. The preschool open house was a great opportunity for the potential preschoolers and parents to come and see the facility and meet the staff and hear about the program. So that was well attended. We continue to see new membership at the Star Activity Center as well as the Fitness Center. We did have a staff promotion there. Sarah Chupek was promoted to the center manager position, so we're now accepting applications for her previous position for the recreation supervisor, and we'll be hopefully interviewing for that soon. She's doing a really wonderful job and trying to keep up with everything. Staff are working on the summer brochure. Hard to believe summer registration is coming up. And as Gail mentioned, working on summer hiring and planning for all the camps, et cetera, and continue to chip away at the wait list and get ready for the pool season as well, hiring for lifeguards. And then on the final page, we have the list of upcoming events. Lots of fun things happening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I had one. I'm happy that yeah, most of the figures seem to be going up, and a lot of them are returning to 2019 levels. Was there any feedback on Paws Park? I mean, I know it's a minor thing, but that one just had kind of a precipitous drop.
Yeah, I think that was just a pandemic pandemic puppy situation.
Right, but I mean, if you look, it was much higher even before the pandemic, and then it's now down to 16. So I was
I
just
think
curious.
It's just people coming and going. We haven't really heard anything. You know, staff stops out there and hears from some of their regulars, but there's been nothing that they've indicated that it was a strong, opinion one way or another.
All right, I was just curious because I was like, huh. When most of the things are going up, that one just sort of stood out. All right.
I mean, anecdotally, I've heard from multiple people that the dog park could use some improvements, and people are happy about the Oakton shift. And so, just anecdotally.
Yeah, we've heard that too, and we've also heard that people have, multiple memberships. They go over to, I think it's back if it's bigger, because it's a lot bigger if they have a bigger dog, or just run over here if they need a quick trip, and then, they're in a lot of the parks too throughout town.
It also doesn't have a lock on the gate. I was very encouraged about the youth and teen program number. That is wonderful because people are always complaining the youth have nothing to do. So it looks like we had a great pool event.
I was actually just chatting with that today. Liz, our program supervisor, and she said the kids are, kind of getting in the groove and trying to rally their friends to come to things. So that's why, this trip is going. So she's starting to add a few more and has like an email list of parents, and these groups of kids it's word of mouth more. So
That's
the
awesome.
pool events
I
have
know
been.
that fluctuates too, right?
It does. I mean, it's just not the participation isn't as it was years ago. The kids are just doing their own things and, electronics more. But it's great to see it grow at least a little bit that it has.
That's a lot. From 13 to
Well,
77. Even 2018, it was 23 participants to 77 this year.
Well, and I know of at least one newly minted 13-year-old who was very excited and specifically requested a fitness center membership to go work out with his friends. So,
go through the orientation.
eh. Anywho, moving along.
Tell him we don't want to hear his name mentioned at board meetings.
Oh, he got that lecture already.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Buildings and Grounds Commissioner Halting.
Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Superintendent Wolf to talk about many
things.
building improvements.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously, I just want to, we briefly touched on just because of the timing of our last meeting, but, point out again that we did get that $600,000 OSLAD grant. If anyone's counting, since February of last year, we've brought in $1.75 million in grants in 13 months. That's pretty good. So, but obviously my report's short, but I've got a lot of memos to back it up. So I'd be happy to answer any other generalized questions that you might have at this time.
Does anybody have any questions about the general buildings and grounds report before we move on to the specifics?
Any word on the pickleball striping?
for North
The lines for Woodland.
Woodland. No, we Woodland. We have our seasonal kickoff meeting is scheduled for the first Wednesday of April. So we've got like with the project team, and we'll be talking about when they're going to get started, and looking at the weather and seeing how things are going. But it won't be, at least until I would guess at earliest it would be mid-May at the earliest that there was lines. But there's other things that have to happen just because of traditional like weather shifts and when those people actually come and do that kind of work in town. So, yep. But we'll certainly keep you informed and update the board after that meeting for sure.
All right. Do we want to move on to talk about start with the indoor pool
Yes.
improvements?
So on page 43 of your report is a memo, indoor fitness center pool improvements. Just for some background, I had put in here that we had completed an aquatic analysis back in 2018. The purpose of that study was to identify some improvements that we, would need to make on the indoor pool and the natatorium for various reasons. One, just to, keep, taking care of our amenity there and make sure it's kind of a long-term ongoing thing, and that we identified all the different maintenance needs that it has. But also, there's been some challenges with pool water chemistry and chloramines. And so chloramines are just an occurrence that happens within chlorinated water, and can become challenging for running an indoor pool because the pool doesn't have the benefit of UV. It doesn't have the benefit of all the open air that you have in an outdoor pool. And so there's some different chemistry things that happen there within the air that causes us to have additional challenges with keeping that pool water chemistry right. So that's also been kind of one of the larger underlying aspects of this project. We did go out to bid previously and came in with a bid that was in excess of our available budget at the time. We decided to reject all bids and look at this and budget some more money. The pandemic hit. We had a few other changes. We had less use on the pool. We had budget uncertainty. So we, I think appropriately kind of put this off on the side. And in and amongst all that time frame, we had an in-ground duct that failed in the lobby space, and we had to put in that ductwork that's overhead in the lobby now that serves for heating and cooling. So we had a number of different things that, led to some changes and some increases in the budget overall for this project, but we are moving forward is because we do have a commitment to make sure that that continues to be an amenity for not only the members of that facility, but the community as a whole. And so we're just kind of going forward and doing that. And it addresses a number of different things, but right now, primarily the main issue that we're addressing is the HVAC, and we're not replacing a unit there per se, but what we're doing is redoing all the ductwork. We're going to stop utilizing the ductwork in the ground, putting ductwork overhead, and then bringing the air returns down lower where the chloramine sits so that we can grab those and evacuate them out and have better overall air quality as well as better all pool chemistry and make it a little bit easier. In the long run, our anticipation is that this will also lessen the amount and frequency in which we have to do backwashing and refilling, which will help make the water temperature better, and it'll lessen the amount of water we're just sending to waste because we're trying to get fresh water. So it's a very long, complicated, long-winded explanation of what we're trying to do, but we're right now with this project, we're essentially taking a multi-million-dollar HVAC unit and reversing the flow on it. We're literally flipping the direction of the flow. So we've done a lot of work, a lot of studies, and looks at it with engineers and contractors to look at it and make suggestions, and then the engineers to kind of review their work and say, yeah, that'll work. And so we anticipate bringing this at the next meeting. We did have the bid opening earlier today, and the number came in good. Obviously, we've got to review them and check them, but if the low bid pans out, then we're within budget on the project. We'll be able to move forward. So hopefully that's what we'll be talking about at the next meeting. So any questions? I know it was kind of long-winded. And
Yeah, I missed, or I didn't understand why the airflow had to be reversed. Is it because we're moving the ducts from the bottom up, and
Yep.
so it's just the way the machinery's laid out. You have to replace
Yeah,
the
and
flow to get it going the right direction.
exactly. And
Okay.
we could have just simply replaced the. First of all, we feel it's appropriate to abandon the ducts anyway in the ground
Yeah,
because
is that common to have ducks in the ground? And I mean, is
there's a
that
few
a
things
thing?
in that facility that were built uncommonly for one reason or another.
Okay.
And we were, you know, we were shocked when we found out that the ducts in the had collapsed, and it really caused me an alarm. Like, you know, even as we sit here today, I have no guarantee that that's not going to collapse tomorrow, and we have no pool for a while until we can get that repaired. So the good news is with this project, so we're not replacing the unit itself because it still have life expectancy. We've had a few challenges with it, but it still has life expectancy, and we haven't budgeted to replace that yet for a handful of years down the road. And it's a 7-figure number to replace that unit, so it's a lot. It's a big one. So we didn't want to, go too early on replacing that. We figured this was a better way. We should be putting the ductwork overhead. We still want to do all these other things anyway, so it just made the most sense. It was the most economical way to move forward now. And it's not like we're going to be abandoning this ductwork once we do the replacement. We'll still be utilizing it. So just made the most sense.
How do you monitor the chloramines?
So as far as in the air, we do not, but we monitor the chloramines in the pool with pool chemistry tests. So
Okay.
and there has been a change since my time here, I believe, with IDPH and what they allow for the combined chlorines, and we're within that, but we're close, and so that's where our level of concern is. And so what happens is it's a combined chlorine molecule. It gases off into the air, but it then gets heavy. It's heavier than air, so it drops down and forms and goes into the pool, and so it creates a false sense that there's enough chlorine in the pool to disinfect. So it's a pool chemistry is a really weird thing, and it's a very challenging thing indoors too. So
We spent a lot of staff time monitoring this and being on top of it. And this is something that's been a long issue, not an issue, but a lot of money's gone towards different fixes. And I'm thrilled that we're at this point, that we got, the right people in to give us a solution that I think is the fix. Like you said, down the road, we'll have to replace. But I think that this is exciting for me. That's just one of those things that's always been not completely perfect. Right?
Great to do projects like that. How
Yeah.
old would you say the building is, or when those ducts were?
1992, right?
yeah, I was going to say the building was like built 92.
Right.
So it's about time to
Yes.
make the change.
Yeah.
I think that the design, I think that's been an issue since the design. There's always been, it's not like it's not in code, it's in code, and, but it's always been a challenge at that facility. And there's, it always is as indoor facilities, like Terry said, indoor pools, but specifically how the ducts were put where they were. And
Yeah, and we've done a lot of work.
Yes.
A lot of work studying and literally having staff record every single hour what exactly is going on, water temperatures to the 10th of a degree, to come up with a plan that's worked. And so it's very cumbersome. We've got a plan now,
right.
but for a long time we were getting complaints constantly from the patrons because the water temp was too cold or this or that. Earlier on, we used to have to close the pool because we had exceeded the chloramine. So, I mean, we've gone through a tremendous amount of work just to get to this point, even where it's operating. And we're getting compliments now from some of our previous criticizers on temperatures now. But finally, the long-term solution is in hand. So we're excited about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
They empty half the pool every Sunday night.
Yeah, it's not that much anymore.
Not anymore. That was for a while. That
One
was
pool goes for 7 minutes, one for 13 minutes. Not a minute more, not a minute less.
Commissioner O'Donnell will be very happy.
He will. I know. He threatened me on his last night.
Oh,
here, so-
yeah. Yeah, when I ran, he was like, you got to keep an eye on the pool stuff.
Yep.
I forgot that he sternly told me that when I talked to him. Was it a good Jim O'Donnell?
Yeah, it was a good Jim O'Donnell.
All right. Okay, let's move on from any other last call for pool.
I have one.
questions. Okay.
I just wanted to. So if I'm reading this, we budgeted for a similar project in 2020, the last time that we actually looked at the amounts. I'm assuming that the 641,000 number was based on an extrapolation of that number for current rates. So I guess what I'm asking is, do we have any reason to believe that these bids will come in substantially over budget?
So
Or do we think
we
have a-
opened those bids today.
What?
We opened the bids today,
Okay.
but we haven't vetted them yet. So I'm not prepared to tell you for certain, but I can tell you that as of right now, the low bid is within our budget.
Okay, great.
So yes.
That's what I.
Yep. Mhm. Yep.
Okay, do we want to talk about the mechanical unit replacements at the fitness center next?
Yes. So for this year, we had budgeted for a number of different mechanical units. We have all three pool heaters. So one for the spa hot tub, one for the leisure pool, one for the lap pool. We have the domestic hot water heaters, which provides us with warm showers for everybody. And then we have a rooftop unit for, I think, the fitness area. I don't know. It's rooftop number 3. I can't remember which area that serves offhand. But we had been working with the same company that we've been doing a lot of our mechanical replacements as of late. They are through a joint purchasing group, and it's been very, beneficial for us to work with them. But with this particular area, we did go back to them and insist that we took another look at what other options for high efficiency there was. And they said, well, it's not worth it. You don't want to do that. And I said, no, you don't understand. We're going to look at this, and then I'll decide if it's not worth it and if we're not going to do that. So it took a little bit of convincing, and then it took a little while for them to kind of go through and do their work on this. And what we did find was that in the gas units, there is not actually a whole lot of efficiency to be had for the heating systems. They're going to have a little bit of increased efficiency just by them being new in general. But overall, when we're firing water, it's just based on demand, and there's not a whole lot of efficiency to be had there. So after we kind of got through that, we looked at and identified some numbers. And so I apologize, this should have been in some of this should have been in the packet, but there is the cost difference for our two domestic hot water heaters is to go to a higher efficiency unit would be another $29,000 and change, and then for the all three pool boilers or pool heaters, it would be just short of $64,000 increase for a higher efficiency model that doesn't really actually save much of anything. I will, the domestic hot water solution saves us about 26.3 MBH, which is the BTUs, it's in thousands. So 26,000 BTUs over the course of a year. So not a tremendous amount, all things considered. There's very little rebate money available, and or operational cost savings for those units are expected to be about $840 over the course of a year. So it's very little. The contractor had suggested that we would have a payback of about 110 years with those heating units. So, but I think for me, more importantly, those were significantly more than what we had budgeted without a real big impact, I guess, in energy consumption. When looking at the RTU unit, the rooftop unit, there was not really any efficiency on the gas side of things, but when we looked at the cooling side of it, we were able to find some efficiencies in the electric portion of it and a ComEd rebate. And so for that one, for example, it would only be an extra $5,000 more to go to that unit. He initially had given me a payback estimate of about 5 years. Then earlier today, he sent me an email. Oh, I had an error in my thing. It's really more like 9.5 years. But that said, and what you'll see down below, although I don't usually provide kind of the financial part until we're talking about approval because we're just at discussion here. This one's a little bit different. It's a little easier to do because it's not a bid, it's a joint purchasing agreement. So you can see for that that second thing, I added in that $4,900 for the high efficiency option for RTU number 3, and it still puts us at a point where we're under budget by $17,000. So I think if that's something that the board wants to contemplate on that one, it's reasonable. I mean, it's not going to be a noticeable impact on our overall budget over a course of time, I don't think, but it'll be better and more efficient. So that's where we're at with the mechanical units for that facility. And we will continue to look at these. I mean, obviously this didn't provide or produce what looks like a lot of benefit overall in the heating area, but it was very clear to me that, there's a lot of efficiencies to be made in these types of units still in the electrical areas when we're dealing with cooling end of it. So it'll be something we continue to look at and can bring to the board. And, if you feel that maybe we should look at this going into budget for the high efficiency to be budgeting those higher numbers for other gas units in the future, we can also go through that exercise. So we're a little more prepared if we want to take those options in the future.
Sounds like the contractor needs to get a little bit more enthusiastic about energy efficiency.
Yeah, I would. We
Sounds
had
like he needs a pep talk.
We did. No, we gave them that pep talk, and they're all over energy efficiency now. It was kind of a ho hum starting
Yeah.
there, and it was really, I think, in fairness to the contractor, I think what had happened was our initial point of contact with these people are typically salespeople, and they're looking to move sales on products and get on to the next one. And this caused them to have to do a lot of extra homework. But we were persistent on them, and they get it. And we explained them the value in doing this and why, and I think they get it now. So they got the pep talk.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I'm surprised the water heaters that they're not rebating it or whatever.
Part of it might be because, I mean, these are massive commercial units. I mean, we're talking about, the units, space model units, we're looking at $65,000 for these things. I mean, they're going to get taken apart in pieces because they don't fit through any door in the building. So.
All right, does anybody have any questions about this one? All right. We can move on to, let's see, take the next one. The forest view one, and I'll go ahead and read the motion. I move to approve LZ Design Group as the lowest responsible bidder for the forest view renovation bid in the total base bid amount of $652,000, which is inclusive of $85,000 in allowances for unforeseen issues, and to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. Can I have a second, please? Any discussion here on Forest View or anything you want to share, Terry, on this?
I got a memo on page 45. As you can see, that the project did in fact come in within our budget. We are working, and we met earlier this week with the IT team to talk through the need for cameras and to get the network there. And so that'll be, that was the intent of that other portion there. So that's not money in the bank, and I'm not ready to declare that we're, done and finalized and we've got extra money to cover some other project yet. But we do feel like we're in a very good spot with that overall budget, especially considering we've got $85,000 in allowances built into that other number. So
It's a lot more than we paid for that building. We hope we can get it done. It's crazy, the amount of money that's going into that building.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I know.
Yep.
It's quite the reno, huh?
I'm sure it's going to be beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was at the animal room with my kids over the weekend, and the woman who was there was lovely, by the way, but it's looking pretty shabby, and I'm pretty excited that
The animals aren't going to know what to do.
what?
The animals are moving
They're gonna be like, hey. The turtles. Anyway, it was I was looking around. I look at everything differently now, and I was excited that it's going to move into a different place. So I will say that. But yeah, the woman she did a great job with the boys because they're very into nature. So she was being really good with them. All right. Any other questions on this one before we get a roll call? All right.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne,
Aye.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Hulting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
All right. The next one is the landscape maintenance bid. This is the weeding, right, Terry?
Yes, it is.
All right. So I move to approve Alvarez Incorporated as the lowest responsible bidder for the landscape maintenance bid and the total base bid amount of $1,335 per visit every other week and $61,770 for alternate number 1, mulching, and to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
This is so exciting.
Weeding.
Another week.
Cindy gives an enthusiastic second for weeding. Any discussion or questions on this one or anything? We've talked about this.
Yeah, we did talk about
Yeah.
this at the last meeting. I had a chance to talk through the project with the contractor. Just due to timing, four-person Barker was out of town, so I had to do the calls on my own on this one, which was good because this was something that I've been kind of working towards and chasing after for years and years. So they have a very good understanding. They do this kind of work. They actually take care of a lot of the planting beds in Chicago along Michigan Avenue. So this is not something unfamiliar to them. And so I was, very happy to have the conversation. Their responsiveness was great by all the references that I checked. So I'm very comfortable and confident that we should have a successful year with them, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes. So just thrilled. I was when I'm planning for this, I was going after this with the idea that it could cost us perhaps a little bit more, but have a better service. But to see that it's going to turn out to be a savings is. I mean, this really goes back to many years ago when we were looking for more staff, and we started to look at contractual for mowing to minimize some of the part-time staffing challenges that we had. And I'm just happy to see this continue, and I'm having further conversations already about it with my other teams. So
We started with like 2 parks or something with the mowing, or
it was minimal, yeah, and we've expanded on that.
This is exciting.
Yep.
A weird question. Why are all these companies so far away?
I don't know. Some of them have multiple locations though, and like even Alvarez, they've got 2 locations, and so they'll have one of them listed as their corporate office, but they have other locations with equipment. So, and she even said to me, "We're thinking we're going to be working out of the this yard, not that yard." So they have multiple locations. Is I think my answer to that, but I don't know.
I was thinking about this today.
All right. Are we ready for our roll call vote? Marianne?
Commissioner Coyne,
Aye.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Hulting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
Alrighty, we will move on to the main park boiler renovation. Good old Bessie from 1960 or whatever. I will read. Well, we could have Margaret could have a name the rehabilitated boiler contest. All right. I move to authorize the renovations of portions of the boilers at Main Park Leisure Center and the total amount of $153,979 through a joint purchasing agreement with the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance which will be fulfilled by Midwest Mechanical under contract number NCPA 02-91, and to authorize the executive director to execute and deliver such agreement. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We talked about this last meeting. Anything more to add, or does anybody have any
And I
questions?
suggest Boiler McBoatface.
I would vote against that.
Better hope this.
If we're looking for
accreditation
board
thing doesn't come to one of
consensus,
our
I
board
think
meetings.
that's a no.
Get dinged.
Anyway,
Anyway.
anything else you want to add here, Terry? I mean,
No, I mean,
the-
we're happy to hear. We've been discussing with the contractor about this, and the parts for this are actually on a shelf. We won't have to be enduring a long wait time, so this will get underway as soon as the boiler gets shut down for the season to make sure it's ready to go for next season, which we're happy about because we know there's some long lead times in other areas with mechanicals right now.
Yep.
I also did, want to just point out, I've highlighted here, where we were we were a little short on the budget for this one because of some of the extra ads that were beyond just that boiler, but the code required emergency stop and then the damper controls and things. So I identified that we had some savings in Main Park. It's been our favorite spot, thanks to Main Park Roof for funding all these extra things. I just wanted to let you know that although we were under budget at the Main Park roofing project, and we've transferred to or identified potential transfers to now 3 different projects, we're still showing over $41,000 remaining in that. So, yes. So I just wanted to make sure we're not overspending. We're keeping track of that. So it's there. So we'll maybe find it on another project in the near future. Who knows?
It's all good news tonight, isn't it?
oh boy. Okay. Any other questions about the boiler? We're good. Can we have a roll call vote, please, Marianne?
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Hulting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel, Commissioner Bendy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne,
Aye.
Commissioner Leduc.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. What did you decide about the mowing?
We're seeing that we're under on these other bids, the operational bids. I will be reaching back out to him to talk about that. I wanted to wait until that bid came in and that was settled to make sure. We had a conversation about it. I had a conversation about it, and he was open to the idea. The contractor did have a few comments. He did tell me that part of it is there's a timing issue and a labor thing. That's part of the reason why it costs more, because they can't just get through the day. They've got to get additional batteries and things like that. He also did mention to me that when we do have that conversation, we're going to be talking about it in terms of, there might be times of the season, like in the fall, when the leaves are really heavy, that they can't keep up with it. And so
That's when we talk about leaving the leaves.
Oh, right. Well, that's fine. And we can do
right.
that. But to the point at which mulch them up, leave them. But his point was, he's like, that we just can't get through the work in enough time in the day at that time of year. So
A step at a time, right?
right, exactly. So, but he's very open to the conversation. So I will be pursuing it.
Yes. And how many hits do you have on the Sustainability Commission or Sustainability Coordinator?
I think there was. I feel like there was over 20, but that doesn't mean that they're all good ones. We did go through a few of them and started to look through them. And there are some people definitely with degrees in like environmental sciences and backgrounds in that area. We did also have it just advertised and posted through IPRA as well, because we just wanted to make sure that we're giving it another week-ish, and then we're going to really start to kind of narrow it down. So but I know Jennifer's been checking on it every couple of days, and she keeps reporting that, there's some in there. I took a look through it a week or so ago and just saw what we had going on in there. So I think we've got some good potential candidates. So, yeah.
I will turn it over to Commissioner Tunnel, who apparently is dodging a bullet by offloading this position before the this certification process begins?
At this time, nothing to report. I will yield it to Intergovernmental Commissioner Bindi. Nothing.
All right, so I guess that goes to me. And now, time to discuss Executive Director Mountcastle's 2022 highlights and compensation report.
Wonderful. So speaking of good news, lots of wonderful things this year. Big year at the district. So I just will review some of the things that are on this page and a half report. I will not go through all of the tactics. I know the board has seen those reports, and we've talked about a lot of these numbers, but just to highlight the high level, some of the numbers. The first number one, we're on page 53. And we've talked about this evening, that we projected a net income of $326,676 in the operating fund, and our net income in the operating fund will be $1,577,129. Of course, pending the completion of the audit, Sandra. Very happy I say that part. But anyway, great work by the whole team. This is a team effort, and as we talked about in a little bit of detail earlier, there's just so many factors that go into this, and we spend a lot of time on projecting out, and especially with the pandemic, it's just great to see the bounce back that we've had, and then also that we're able to give back to our employees, and the board supported that in the budget. That $192,000 estimate will be utilized for the operating fund for the labor market adjustment program we're working through. Not on this report, but I think I put it in here. Maybe I did. We retained the AA+ bond rating, which was also, obviously, we went through that process. We got the rating this year in 2023, but we started the process back in 2022. So it's a very big deal, and it's very, very compliment to the district in terms of all of our financial practices, policies, et cetera. So, and our position, most importantly. So that I wanted to point out. On number 3, customer service, was very happy to see again that these numbers bounce back. Our overall satisfaction with customer service went up 51.02% satisfaction in 2022 versus 44.81% in 2021. All of the areas that we pick out, that the overall categories went up, except for the first one, which it's not bad, but it dipped down, probably about looks like a little over maybe 2%, close. No, it's a 1.5%. So
You're talking about 24 surveys, right?
no,
Not?
no,
It's
that's 24 total surveys that are sent out. The number of surveys, and I don't know if I brought, I think I did here. Yes, I did bring it. The number of surveys.
Oh, the types of surveys. like
Yes,
a
there's
camp survey.
the number of respondents, and yeah, that's okay.
24 surveys.
You're like, no. There was 470 respondents in 2022.
Much better.
Yes. Did I word that?
Well,
I was confused too.
types of surveys might be better.
Okay. So, right, there's 24 different types of surveys that were sent out. So programming surveys, a survey on South Park, a survey on the other one. So, yeah. Sorry if that was confusing. I will fix.
I'm almost ashamed to ask this. When I don't know if I can ever remember filling out an annual survey. Like,
Yeah, it's always during customer service week.
We're not
My-
doing the numbers.
Right.
huh?
It's sent out to all of our, isn't it sent out through
Like
Track?
the e-blast?
Or the yeah.
How does it get?
You might have gotten one.
Yeah, it
your
goes
wife.
to head of household and rec track, but then I usually also
Probably goes to my husband who doesn't.
It could.
post it on social media sometimes too. So might see it on social media and take it that way also.
Right. This is not a mail, and this is not a
It's electronic.
statistical.
All of our surveys are electronic.
Right. Right.
Probably goes to him. Okay.
But like after a camp, you would get one too.
Yes. Camp.
Yeah, that's the 24. So it's a different bullet. The 24 surveys are like the camp survey, the pool pass holders, after certain programs, preschool, swim lessons. We do it after each one. This is one of those 24 surveys is the customer service survey. So that one's done annually to a broader group, to everybody in our database.
I like those numbers even better now then.
Good. Glad to hear that.
I read it the same way. I'm like, 24 people.
You're like, come on, you could do better than that, Gail. All right. So lots of information. I realize that. So let's see. The 40th Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial.
Can we go back to the customer service? For a
Sure.
minute? Like, so is this like overall knowledge? And I know I asked questions about this last year, but it was a whole year ago. Overall knowledge of staff, 43%. Like 43% said it was good, or like what does that?
I think you have the results there, but I'm
I
pretty
do. I'm
sure you
staring at
just
it. Yeah.
reported on excellent.
Yes.
43% excellent.
So there's excellent, good.
Mhm.
What are the other categories? Satisfactory and
Okay.
poor.
And so the likeliness to recommend the park district to others is the 60% highly likely.
I think that's yes or no.
Okay.
That one's yes or no.
Okay.
Right.
So
I don't give you the whole survey results.
yeah, I know.
Like,
I really like surveys
Yeah.
and data, so I probably
it's kind of a
yeah 60%.
snapshot, right?
I feel like there's room for improvement. I want lots of people to recommend the Bar Park District to others. So yeah, seems like
Right?
there
That one was a yes or no.
was a yes or no.
I don't have the results
And
in
then
front of me.
overall
either.
satisfaction with customer service is
Mhm.
51% like very satisfied.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. And then it goes
Excellent,
to
yeah, that
40 for good, 7.94% average, and 0.91% poor.
I know I asked about, I remember specifically asking about this last year. Okay.
She used to include all this stuff in the packet.
I
and said,
did.
Don't do that.
Yes.
Because the packet was this big. So
Right.
Well,
that might be something to do for this kind of
maybe you can just send it to me.
Oh, it'll be in the accreditation, right? Everything will be. Everything will be. Yeah, I can include this, but I can send it to you, by the way. And
Yeah, I'm
I could
just-
include some of those documents, but as Cindy said, we kind of changed this format last year because it was just too much almost that
But
it was
maybe
over.
You could just say, like maybe put in for next year, you know, what the rating-
answer
what
was.
the rating. Yeah,
Yeah,
what
was
the
for the
43%
percentage.
was.
Or if it was something like, 90% said good and or excellent, right? Like something that
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I just
we do that in another
we
report,
talked about
but
this
yes, we can easily do that. That's
I-
that's
I-
good
I
comment.
just-
Rather than adding.
Yeah, if it's only 51% are satisfied with our customer service, like that's not great. But I don't think that's what this says. I think it's
No, it's 51% excellent and
Excellent,
40% good. So it's
yeah,
the majority
so
of
it's
them. So
majority. So
right.
maybe a little bit more detail last
Yep.
year, so I'm not like, sitting at my kitchen table. Okay, thanks.
certainly. Okay, I'm going to jump and just, lead me back if you want me to go through each one of these, but I was jumping to the major initiatives, and I was discussing the 40th Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. And this is, we're anticipating, and Sandra told me today that it says in the portal that it's final. But it's pending final, right, or something, but it moved forward from, right. Yes.
Usually have a party.
A party for the 40th? The 40th celebration.
How many other organizations?
We'll have a,
We'll have it on the roof.
Jim O'Donnell would come to that party. He loves this.
Alrighty.
Excellence for financial.
Let's get it first, and that's okay. I think the next bullet point, I'm just going to keep going. The next bullet point it deserves a drum roll, in my opinion. That we passed the referendum, and all the work that went into that, the 37 outreach meetings.
Here's a trivia question.
What?
What 56% was yes? That was a trivia question. No, you can't look. You can't look for the answer. You need to tell us.
What are you talking about? I don't understand the question.
What percent voted yes for the Oakton?
Oh, geez, I have
Yeah.
that somewhere.
Yeah.
That's cruel. I think it might have been 0.6.
Be fair, you got a point for 56 and you got an extra point if you got the dot whatever. I think it was dot 2, right? Or 4? Yeah, it was either 2 or 4, and I can't remember. I can't even remember. Yeah, but you got 1 point for 56.
I believe they asked that question.
Crazy.
We're making
Anyway.
the trivia questions easier.
Right.
Okay, no more goofiness. I'll stop.
Yeah, so to move on, the staff worked very hard, as did the board and the committee on this. I won't go through. We've talked about what we did, but it was very time consuming and very obviously well worth it. The community spoke. That was our biggest, I would say our biggest initiative, especially mine in the past year. So that's historic. The 24 surveys, as we've talked about before, I won't go back and talk about that again unless we want to talk about those. Again, we used to put those all in the packet, and we decided to cut back. So I'm certainly open to going back to any way you would like to. The sponsorship, I think, speaks for itself. The 200,000 was, I couldn't remember, was that Woodland, the portion of Woodland, 200,000? Yeah, for that we received this year, and that's why that's listed there. So that's where it says 350 in donations, 201,000 in grants, as compared to the rest of that. So turning the page. The first bullet point I thought was important to point out. In 2023, we had a larger percentage from user fees for programs, 49.1% in 2023 from user fees and 41.7% from taxes, and then the other percentages, smaller percentages that make up the rest. As compared to 2022, it was 45.6 of the revenues from taxes and 47.2 from user fees. So again, that's a number that usually we point out. Especially impressive is the recreation program numbers, higher attendance than pre-pandemic levels, with 38,759 enrolled and 3,188 programs. And I gave the average here, and we also have the numbers. I certainly can go through those as well, but the 5-year average was lower in participation in the years 2015 through 19, and I did not use the pandemic numbers to skew this. The drop in attendance is lower, and that number was adjusted a bit since this report, but it's 325,651 compared to the 5-year average of 387,698, 2015 through 2019.
Is that before FFC?
The change of FSC was in here. I think that was 2017. You're right. Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm. So then I talk about the grants, which Superintendent Wolf highlighted our success. This is really historic again for us, getting all the number of grants that we have received. I mentioned the ones that we received in 2022, which were the museum grant and the Hinckley Park Oslide grant. And then, of course, the next bullet point talks about South Park master plan process and that we received that grant. So I think that, something to be said about that, and we've always talked about this, is that when you have the plan and you have a good plan and you take the time to really perfect the plan in terms of the public meeting and the surveys, and then spend the time and the money on the architects to get a good plan, that pays off. And that's what we're seeing. And we've seen since we've started doing that.
And you have the timing worked out, that you have the work done, and
Right.
you can turn it around quickly.
Right,
You're
right.
Not scrambling when there's a date.
Yeah, and so we talk about it, and we talked about one for this year, and I think it might be the first time we may not. Huh?
He's got enough on his on his desk.
No, we don't have a good project. I mean, but we've had so many projects. Terry's like, please. We have had so many good projects because of, I mean, this speaks to, a lot of the planning and the staff, but it also speaks to that the district for a long time delayed a lot of this capital, right? So this is what's happening now, is that we're not paying the price, but it's all great. It's great for the community. We're hitting all areas of the town. So that makes me happy that we're not just doing the north side of the town with Oakton and what we've done here. Now we're able to hit some of the bigger, the South Park is obviously a very heavily used park, as well as Hinckley. So, they're good projects, and it shows, because it was very competitive. As Joan sent me an article about several, and I've talked to several players that did not get this grant, this last one. So Forest View, I'm so excited about that project as the Nature Center, near and dear to all of our hearts. It's one of the most popular programs and just different opportunities for our suburb. And it gives the kids something, that they just don't get, in the rest of the program. So that, even though it's a small building, it's going to really add to that programming. And I think it's great. I think that if I were to have a big wish list, I would say for the next big park grant and the next big project for the district would be a nature center. But this is a good stepping stone for that. So no plans for that in the future, obviously right now, but I think that visioning out, I think it's a good thing for the district for us to look at. So just a couple of things I wanted to add. Of course, I have all the strategic plan tactics on the following pages. Margaret and I have been working on, we had some discussions about this, because I'm like, what report is missing? Well, we had put, again, 2 years ago, a summary report of a lot of the strategic plan tactics and the issues, but we didn't do it last year because we took out all the detail of that. We're still going to complete this report. It's just not quite done, but there's a couple other things I wanted to mention in here. And I will get this report to the board. A lot of it is summarized in what you're seeing in the or it's listed in the tactics, but we're summarizing a lot of it. But so anyway, you can review the tactics. Those are attached. Those are the detail of what goes into the strategic plan. I wanted to talk a little bit about, one of the big, as the board knows, we've talked about this a lot, the staffing challenges, right? That is another thing that has been a big focus, the recruiting and the staffing challenges. Very proud of the district for how we have approached that and how we've dedicated dollars to it, how we've been proactive on the recruiting side, and also the staying competitive in the market. We are looked at as a great district to work. We are competitive, but it's, we've worked to do that. The healthcare benefits that were proposed this year, and the vacation time, and the board's been, so supportive of that, which is wonderful. The compensation study is another thing that we're going to get the jobs that are not in the right place and the ranges in the right place. It's a big number, but it is a one-time thing. And, we haven't done it, as we've talked about, for 12 years. We've done the one-offs, but we haven't done, the as a whole. So we're going to fix, what needs to be fixed. So we keep our high-performing staff, which staff is high-performing, and I don't think I need to say that. But we demand a lot from the staff. The community demands a lot from the staff, and our staff produces. So I'm proud of that. As well. So the board also supported, we identified the needs for these new support positions. Most of these new positions are to support our staff. And I think you're going to see it in numbers. And I think you're going to see it in customer service as well. and just refining a lot of our back end systems. So I believe, oh, one more thing that will be in this, the summary report that did not make my report is, I apologize, is a couple things about some of our initiatives. There's a couple, just two things I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention, in this report, we talk about the success rate of our classes, because we can say we offer all these programs, but our goal is to achieve an overall success rate of 70 to 75% of programs offered compared to programs that run. And in 2022, our success rate was 73.8%, so it was within that goal. Now, last year it was 76.4, but it's right there. So I wanted to mention that number. We also maintain the operating fund balance of between 2 months. It's, it has to be between 17 and 33%. It was at 39% of expenditures this year. And then the last thing I wanted to list, but not least, is the lawn care practices. The fertilizer used in 2022 was natural. 4 of our parks did not require fertilizer to be applied in 2022. And at 16 parks, we did spot treatments of the weeds, but that's all within our policy, our lawn care practices policy. We planted 36 trees. Unfortunately, 17 trees had to be removed, which mainly were due to dead or declining condition. There was a couple that were growing into things, I read. Like, growing into like
into the electric transformer for the
Right.
fitness center. So they were like volunteer trees that, as staff was kind of going around and looking at, they were, what can we do? I said, you can take those out. So, but kind of a rare scenario.
But mainly they were dead or dying, the ones that were removed. And our goal is 40, but there was a couple that we're going to plant in the spring.
Yeah, so there's a few that just when we were putting in the order, the vendor said, those are trees that you want to plant in the spring for better success, because
Right.
they're traditionally, that's the time of year to plant them. So I actually was just working on that planting plan today with staff, and to make
Good.
sure that they had those as well as a few others in the plan. And right now we're looking at about 56 or so for this year. Our overall plan is, and now we've got this all in GIS, and I've got a staff member that has got a background and a degree in GIS, so we're a little more able to manipulate this in house. And we worked with some people to get a plan together. We're actually thinking that in subsequent years we might have to talk about dropping that number down, because we're running out of space in the parks, because they're either athletic fields or the canopies are really going to be crowding in. So it'll be more discussion maybe at
Right.
that time of year, but.
People are looking for shade.
That's very true.
And I really hope you're putting some oaks in next year.
So anyway, those are the high-level highlights. I'd be happy to talk about anything else that you'd like to talk about, or answer any questions you might have. But
I have a weird question. I should know this, and I
Okay.
think I struggle with this every year. Who writes next year's goals, or when does that get done?
Here's goals. Oh, for me?
Yeah.
I work on that with the president.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing that.
No.
I had I'll tell Jen a couple things.
That's fine.
All right.
Yeah. Great. Any questions? I mean, probably soon.
Oh,
There's never been like a specific,
I
because
have
we're
a little-
into this year already,
yeah, I
but
had a couple of questions about on the goals that
Mhm.
you wrote, like on 58. I don't remember this. Replace 12 network switches as part of the replacement plan. Do we remember why we didn't do that? I don't remember.
are you, I need to see where you're
Page
at.
58
Oh, okay.
under administrative core area.
Let's see.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
There's a lot of these that there's reasons behind,
Yeah.
right? Why
But
we're
some of
not.
them I know, and some of
Yeah,
them I don't.
Sure,
know.
sure.
We had budgeted to replace them based on the replacement schedule, and there's still some life, and I think there was a delay in the product supply chain issues, so it just
Rolled over.
rolled over.
Yeah.
Mhm.
for Terry. Remind me about the wheelchair swing.
Oh. Too expensive, basically, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they were willing to fund a portion of it, and the amount that at the time was just the cost difference was not there. So
It's mainly because of the padding and the,
yeah,
requirement for the access and.
yeah, it was that we never moved forward with that plan. Norwood decided to put their money in a different area instead of towards that.
At our park, though?
No, they were doing a different program, I think, on some schools or something.
I think it got too complicated.
That was a really cool thing.
was,
Sorry
but-
it fell through.
Yeah.
I think that's all I had.
I was wondering if you got any feedback about or had any insights on the pool closing at 8 o'clock instead of 9. Like, that was rented out a lot, right?
Right.
In that hour. But did you get anybody saying like
I haven't.
any positive or negative feedback about it closing earlier? I mean, my family used to go that late. We were like the
There wasn't a
one
lot
the
of people
five
there that late. Is
bums
one of the
around
reasons.
between
Right.
8 and 9
That's
o'clock.
probably why.
Before they made
Want to
that,
keep us from hanging out.
Not you, but I'm just saying that small number.
before they decided to do that, they tracked, I think, for 2 years. Just
Okay.
the numbers during that time
Yeah.
frame, and I'd have to go back and look at the survey, but I don't think there was anything that specifically mentioned that in the comments. I'll take a look, and if there is anything,
was
I'll
just
let you know. But
curious.
I asked a few times over the summer, and staff said no, we really haven't heard too much.
Okay.
People were happy we opened earlier in the day, right? For
We did open a little bit
Earlier
earlier
at
for
Centennial,
the pass holders.
Mhm.
And then one of the needs assessment in the survey community every 5 to 10 years. When did that happen last?
2018.
That's what I put 2018.
Yes, I know. I was looking at that
like,
today, as a matter of fact. I was thinking about that. We have been surveying so much on Oakton.
Yeah.
And we have not done it. I mean, we do the customer service and then we're doing the specific ones. And we did not budget this year, but I would say next year is
Yeah,
probably a good time for that.
I feel like we have a lot of new residents
Oh,
who
yes.
moved in during the pandemic, and we kind of like need to revisit.
And the other thing that we discovered as we started trying to do the gold medal application, which we put on the back burner for this year because it's just too much, but is that our master plan, our whole district, we do the park ones, it's 5 to 10 years, and we're hitting 10 years. So that's something, but you usually do the survey and then you do the master plan, right?
That makes sense.
So
Yeah, I was
we're coming right up on those deadlines.
okay. I think
Good question.
I was like, I think that's all of my questions.
Anybody else? Nope, thank you.
Oh, all right. So, seeing no other questions, then are there any communications and correspondence?
I did pass around, we just got that note. I thought it was nice to share with the board because the PMA wanted us to share that with them about their thanks for our business and working with them.
That was a nice note.
Mhm.
Any new business?
I did have a question about the parking lot situation. So Terry sent us a lot of good information, and then I talked with my alderman, and you were gonna do something.
We're not, we had a big meeting yesterday with architects, but we're not there yet. We didn't have that specific, it was a holistic conversation.
Do
So
they just have a number of what we've set aside for?
we asked them that yesterday,
That's
and
mainly what I think we need.
we're not there. Yeah, there's so many calculations that need to be done by the engineer that are way bigger than maybe you can explain that better, than the permeable pavers. So I don't know exactly how to grasp what to say about
Move
that.
forward on that.
There's a handful of different things that are factoring into the stormwater needs on in that particular project, and really on any projects. But so the permeable pavers obviously has storage capacity as it soaks in and is contained within the voids in the gravel that's underneath it, that Park Ridge doesn't allow. That's number one.
Right.
We want them to allow that. That may or may not have an impact actually on Oakton. I think it's still an important thing to do, because at some point, even though the city, and we just learned this the other day, at some point, even though the city is more stringent than MWRD, once you get to a certain size project, it flips. And we're going to have to do certain things because of MWRD and because we're in a combined sewer area at that size of a project where that may not actually be that any savings for us in that particular situation.
It's still being evaluated.
They're still evaluating it.
Right.
So the other issue there too is that obviously the permeable pavers have a different like a runoff coefficient. Like asphalt is like 95% runoff. I think they give you like 0.75 or 75% for, so I don't think they take that into consideration as well. So there's a couple of different things. One of the bigger challenges we have right now with the city is the way that they look at tributary areas. And if you have to dig a small little trench through an area just to make a connection and you bring it back to the same grade level that you were previously, if you traverse through an area that is drained to a sewer, you got to cover that entire tributary area. So that's a big challenge, but it's a little bit more complicated to kind of work through that particular process. Yeah.
They're working. I mean, the conversation went on for a long time yesterday about the whole stormwater, right? And how we're storing underground, and can they store it, not as big of an area, but like, stack it. So it was this broad conversation yesterday. And then the other thing was about, the bigger thing that we are questioning, but he's still digging into, is the area of the current building, whether we're going to get credit for that. Is that saying that correctly, right? Credit, we're not sure we're going to get,
Right.
we're going to have to pay for that.
So it's impervious.
Yes.
It's impervious now. So MWRD says you wouldn't have to do that, but Park Ridge doesn't. So that's and that might account for a half an acre foot.
And so we asked him to look at that, and that may be something bigger that we might be going after with the city. So it's all still being calculated, but so I don't think it's time right now.
Yeah.
Hold on to that thought, but yeah. And hopefully we're going to have some discussions with the city, and maybe they'll give us some relief. So I want to approach it, that way first, and then
all very positive. The
Yes.
discussions
Oh, it
that we
is.
had have all
Right.
been very positive.
Right.
But so my alderman was saying, well, when do you need this? And I'm
Right.
like, I don't know.
It's not that time yet, but so they're still doing their calculations. We're set to meet with them a month from now, and then we'll be talking to the board about some of the things that they're going to be sharing with us about costs, and they've got more work to do. It's very complicated. What was that, a 3?
I thought it was going to be by the end of February they'd have costs, right?
Well, they have some, but they, they're running into costs. They're seeing of course, the steel costs and all these costs that are going up. But I don't want to go into this lengthy discussion about it until, because they're not there yet, right? They have a lot. They wanted to come to us and say, here's some of the things that are going on, and here's some shifts we might be making. And we gave some more input, and then they're going to go back and do their work. We have a little bit work on our end, and there's soil borings and all these things. So we've got the right people on the job, I can tell you that, because it's very serious, and they know what they're doing. So.
Of attorney services and matters pertaining to the discipline, performance, compensation, and or dismissal of one or more specific employees of the Park District 2C1. We will reconvene to open session to take action on the executive director's performance review and compensation, and to take action, if any, on other matters discussed in closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Mary Ann, could you please call the roll? Oh, wait, sorry. Is there any discussion?
Thank you.
Nope. All right, now.
Commissioner Halting,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuttle,
Yes.
Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes. All right, I am now reconvening the regular board meeting of the Park Ridge Park District Board of Commissioners to take action on the Executive Director's performance review and salary compensation, and any other matters discussed in closed session. It is approximately 9:41 p.m. and it is still Thursday, March 16th. Marianne, if you could please take the roll.
Commissioner Bendy?
Here.
Commissioner Bowe? Here. Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Commissioner Grau?
Here.
Commissioner Hulting?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Tunnel?
Present.
Commissioner Leduc?
Here. All right, everyone's here. So I move to increase the executive director's salary retroactive to January 1st, 2023 with a 4.0% merit increase. May I have a second?
Second.
Marianne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bendy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Commissioner Hulting?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel? Commissioner Leduc?
Yes. So that passes unanimously. And thank you again on the record for all the successes of the past year, including Oakton, including procuring grants, including setting our district up for continuing success. Thank you so much. Right. Oh, and so I now move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're done.